Hello, hello. Happy Sunday to all. Welcome to the UpSet podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Latasha Hewitt, and I'm here with the crew. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, happy Sunday.
Happy
We
Good to
live.
see y'all. Good to see y'all.
How's everyone?
Oh,
Not feeling as good as
Good.
Nick, but doing all right.
I am an
Yes.
exceedingly blessed man, I tell you.
Yes. It's been kind of a busy week for all of us. Charles had a birthday this week.
Mhm.
So
Yes,
happy
sir. I
birthday.
mean, 49
him.
again, man. 49.
49 again, man. I'll tell you, it's.
Yeah. It's
Don't
tough.
let the
I
grace
you know,
fool
other folk make much of a fuss over birthdays than I do.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Chuck? Happy birthday.
That's
Yeah, man.
right.
Happy
Thank
birthday
you.
to you, my
Happy
friend.
birthday, Chuck.
Thank you.
I
Thank
am
you.
grateful
Appreciate
that
it.
you're here.
If you
That's
live
That
right.
that
Thank you so
gleam in
much.
your father's eyes actualized itself into the essential and substantial human being that you are now.
Okay, what's our topic
I
for?
know, right?
Yeah.
tonight?
Well,
No, before we go there, we got to talk about Nick, though. We do.
we do.
yeah.
Oh, of course.
Big.
Nick, did you cry? I
happening.
was supposed to look back at the video. Did you cry when you left?
I cried when I left and right. I mean, it was the most emotionally freighted day that I can remember in my life.
Gotcha.
And it wasn't sad. It was just I have never cared for a group of people so much, and I've never felt so cared about.
Mhm.
The West Philadelphia Seventh-day Adventist Church, whoever pastors that church, is inheriting a group of loving, energetic, caring people with great spiritual leadership. And the only thing I can think about now is now that I am retired from that pulpit is if they'll let me come back this Wednesday to do prayer meeting. That's just all I can think about. I love those folks, man, with all my heart, and they
love you.
Wow.
That was,
they
you know,
do. They
The love was real.
yeah,
Yeah,
they love
it
their
was seen and
pastor, and
felt.
I'm honored to have borne that title. And the children of West Church are they're second to none. They are exceptional. I mean, I'm still walking with them. I told all of my kids that, that you have lost a pastor and you've gained Uncle Tally, and so
Oh
that's the way
wow,
that
that's good.
works.
Nice.
That's good. That's a lot of money.
I'm
That's a lot-
hip, man.
That's a lot, that's a lot, that's
That's
a
why
lot
I'm
of
doing this
Christmas money,
overtime. We
man.
get paid for this, don't we?
I
Right.
think.
It's called the
About to
UpSet.
get a raise.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
man.
also, we
Thank
can't
you.
forget GP celebrated anniversary.
Yes.
Yes.
This
Number
is
three.
Congratulations.
3
The big
years.
3.
One for the
Thank
Father,
you.
one for the Son.
And one for the Holy Spirit.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Hallelujah.
I had the sublime privilege of being at their wedding and
Yes.
and
Yes.
You weren't
solemnizing
just
it.
there.
Yeah, it was a
were
beautiful
officiating.
beautiful
Yeah.
wedding.
I told GP, check his paperwork. Make sure you're married.
No, he did good. He had
Yeah.
a powerful sermonette. It was 10 minutes long, but it was amazing. And
Got it.
people were raving about our short but powerful ceremony.
Awesome.
Wow,
Mm.
look at that.
Nick, will
That's
you
why
marry
everybody
Amen
me?
on the
do it.
short.
Nick?
Well, you're not quite my type. We can date,
Okay. All right.
but I'm not going to marry you.
All right, that's cool. That's cool. All right, and a couple of us had an opportunity to go to Pelk.
Yep.
A lot of you, some of us were in person, some of us online. That was great. I thought it was
Well,
cool.
for our listeners, what is PELK?
Oh yes, thank you. Pelk is Pastoral Evangelism and Leadership Conference, and it's held once a year, usually the first weekend of December, and that's where pastors and chaplains and Bible workers and leaders from all over regional conferences and beyond come together for kind of spiritual enrichment. There's great preaching, great singing, workshops, a lot of great stuff. And so, of course, last year it was not held due to COVID. So this year they did a hybrid online as well as in person. And it's pretty great. And you can still check it out. I think it's pelkpower.com if you want to go back, register, and check out all those great messages. Cool time. All right. So now that we've recapped our whole week, we have a topic tonight that this was actually requested from one of our viewers. And that's a reminder to all of you that if you have topics you want us to cover, we're getting the lineup for 2022 together. So make sure you let us know. But this is a topic that always seems to come up at this particular time of the year. We call it the most wonderful time of the year, right?
Uh-huh.
Go ahead and sing.
Yeah.
It's like he's about to
I
sing.
know I need
Go
the
ahead.
background music right about now. But for some, it's not always that. Or for some who feel it's that, there are others who want to
It's
take
the
them down
Grinch.
just a notch, right? And so tonight we're talking about Christmas controversy. Tally, lead us into the discussion.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, for those of you who recognize that this controversy has been long-standing and ongoing, it hasn't always been that way. The birth of the Christ was not much of an issue for the first 100 years of the church. To be honest with you, birthdays weren't much of an issue for anybody because most people didn't know when they were born. They just know that they were. But ever since the 3rd century, when Sextus Julius Africanus came up with the date of December the 25th as the birth of Christ, and the Emperor Aurelian then made that an official fixation that the birth of Christ occurred on this day, people began to come up with the idea as to what to do to take note of that day. It became the time when people would gather in the name of the Christ. They would mass in the name of the Christ, Christ Mass. Since that
Ooh.
time, all sorts of different traditions have come up that are a part of that day, not the least of which the giving of gifts, where we see the wise men coming to Jesus on the day of his birth. Even though that is not biblical, it became a tradition. The idea of a tree, the idea of lighting candles, the idea of decorations, the idea of certain foods that you eat. We have surrounded the day, and we've surrounded the celebration of the nativity, the birth of Christ, with all sorts of traditions. And many of our people have lost their ability to enjoy that day, and they often will fixate their lack of enjoyment on words found in the book of Jeremiah, the 10th chapter, where it says, "For the customs of the people are vanity." This is verse 3. "A tree from the forest is cut down and worked with an axe by the hands of a craftsman. They decorate it with silver and gold, and they fasten it with hammer and nails so that it cannot move." People come to this question, this issue, with sincere hearts. And today we're going to talk about whether or not there should be concerns about the celebration of a day that centers in the birth of Christ. Brothers and sisters, or brothers and sister, I hereby toss the ball out into the midst of this august assembly of interlocutors for debate. Shall we continue?
I'm just mesmerized. I just want you to continue. I'm just sitting there like, what else is he gonna say? This is
Ted
wow.
wanted to do a commercial.
Yeah,
Actually,
that was
I know.
phenomenal.
I thought you
Yeah.
was gonna end, this was gonna be the shortest show. I thought you was gonna end it right there. You can
You
end
know,
it.
you
Right?
wonder.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly, I think clearly we can all acknowledge that much of what we do with our holidays are rooted in origins that are not Christian, that are pagan. And the question becomes, if something is rooted in a pagan celebration, does that mean that we should dismiss it from our lexicon, from our canon of celebrations? New Year's is pagan.
Mhm.
Uh, Easter, where a bunny rabbit is caught carrying eggs,
Mhm.
really gets pagan. I mean, so let's get to it. I mean,
No,
is
yeah,
it acceptable for a
but
Christian to
hold on.
do
Why,
things?
why
Yeah.
stop there? Why stop there? The pews in the church,
Are pagan.
pagan. The
What,
Pope.
you know what? What's pagan about a pew? I mean, yeah.
Come on. Hey, what?
I,
Sounds like a book title.
It's,
What's pagan about
it's
a
pagan
pew?
about a pew. Well, the way that church is set up, it's not, when they had combined in the same, I guess, which century was this? I'm not as good as Nick on this, but when they combined papal and combined pagan, they took the pagan customs of worship into the Christian church. We never had a cathedral. We never had any of those things, but yet we consider that the highest. Matter of
oh,
fact,
I see.
I'm talking about when I say the pews, I'm talking about the actual pews that's sitting there, and some of them have the have roses at the end of them and
Mhm.
names at the end of them and crosses
yeah,
on
yeah.
them. Even the cross is not even we put that as Christianity. So that's why I said that the steeple on top of the church is a phallic symbol. That ain't got nothing to do with Jesus. So
But can we take some of those elements that are good and highlight them during the
Mhm.
season. So because
Oh,
I
I'm not
understand that we
GP. I'm not
celebrate
pastoring
Christmas.
anywhere unless it
Hold
has
on.
a steeple on
So
it.
we celebrate Christmas with gift giving because of the indescribable gift of Jesus, right?
Mm.
So I think there
No,
are
no. Actually,
wonderful
we
things that we
celebrate it
can celebrate this
because
season.
of the wise men. It's the tradition of giving gifts actually is based on
Mhm,
the
mhm.
wise men coming and giving Jesus gold and frankincense and myrrh.
Mhm.
Right.
You know,
But I like GP's also. I mean, I could take his that is the greatest gift that was given, John 3:16. I go with that too. I go with, you know, I I think the biggest problem is that we choose what we would decide to be too pagan for us, and we choose which is less pagan. And look, our cars, our cars have pagan symbols on them. We don't pull them to the side and say we ain't driving in them anymore. So
Mhm.
I think that don't get me on with pagan. I'm very paganistic.
my
So
car is not, my car is very very clear. I drive a Chrysler.
Right.
Mercy.
but
Seriously?
somebody could argue that the symbol. Oh, I'm about to say.
I didn't think
See,
so.
I was going there. Somebody would say
I
that the
did.
symbol of the Chrysler is pagan. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, let's take a look. Let's first unpack this Jeremiah text because everybody hangs their hat on it. Where in Jeremiah chapter 10, it speaks about this practice where a tree is felled and brought into a house, and a craftsman decorates it with gold and with silver. And many people say, you see, the Bible is saying that the Christmas tree as an ornament is sinful and wicked and unacceptable. What say ye one? What say ye all?
Gold and silver.
Silver and gold.
I don't know. I mean, and not to evade your question, but to kind of go back to what you were asking before. I've always seen Christmas as an opportunity when the world's attention is on this holiday. Now, whether they
Mhm.
believe in Jesus Christ or not, that story is being told over and over and over. And I always see it as an opportunity to capitalize on the world's attention to Christmas. A lot of times, of course, it has become a little commercialized, and sometimes Santa trumps Christ, but it still is an opportunity, particularly for us in for ministry to really center it back to its real meaning, celebrating the birth of Christ, introducing Christ to other people. I think if we focus on its initial intent and why we celebrate it, I think it has to do with our intent. If we're the ones getting caught up in the Christmas trees, not that we know what Ellen said about the Christmas tree, okay? So it's like once people saw that in the spirit of prophecy that she encouraged Christmas trees, so a lot of people just left it alone. But I'm going back. I'm just saying that for Christmas, I think we spend so much time trying to demonize something that can really be an opportunity for ministry if we handle it correctly.
Mhm.
So it's interesting you use the word capitalize.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah.
We'll go there later, but go ahead, Nick.
No. I was waiting to see what you were going to do because I think the capitalistic approach to Christmas is one of the offensive things that
Yeah.
that people find.
Absolutely.
And it's true. I mean, you can't ignore it.
Well, I mean,
And we do too. We're excessive at it. You see all of the commercials now.
Nonstop.
What I always thought was just silly. You see the luxury car commercials.
oh yeah, with the bow on them.
The big
Mhm.
bow, and and the husband or the wife brings the spouse out to show them the surprise in the driveway, and they're all excited and really. I mean, some people can't even afford the bow on the car, let alone the car. But I just think that with capitalism, we just go overboard, and to the extent that there are people who get really stressed out because they
Mhm.
can't afford Christmas.
Yeah, they go into debt. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
and it's sad. But when I knew something was up many years ago, and my mother used to take me downtown to John Wanamaker's
Oh yes,
to go visit Santa.
Christmas Village.
That was a big deal,
Oh,
'cause,
wasn't it?
I didn't grow up Adventist. I barely grew up Christian, at least twice a year. And we went down there and we took, there are the lights and the John Wanamaker organ. You remember that, Tally? You know,
Absolutely,
the big
yeah.
organ and big Christmas festival, and I was so excited. And we're going to go see Santa, and we go to the Santa village, and the kids are standing in line, and the elves are standing. Some say, "Okay, all right, yeah, I'm really excited." So I get to talk to Santa and give him, you know, he told me I was a good boy. Never thought about how in the world did he know that, but I took advantage of the opportunity, thinking and believing, you know, that Santa knew I was good and he was going to take care of me. But here is where the problem. Here's where the problem started for me. So, you know, after we did that, you know, Mom wanted to go do some shopping, and we walk out of John Wanamaker, and wait a minute, I see 4 or 5 Santas on the sidewalk.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said,
That was it.
Mom, I thought that there was only one Santa.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
she said, oh, just ignore that. They're just Santa helpers. I said, oh, I see.
well, my mom told
True
me. She
story,
said,
though. I mean, from that point on, I
how a
was
lot of
like,
people figure it out.
something's up here.
my mom said, "Son, let me tell you about cloning." And that's how,
Well,
but I see you guys don't want to talk about that Christmas tree in Jeremiah there.
well, you know what? I don't know
Oh.
if I've anytime I see that text in Jeremiah, I just know it's not about Christmas. So when people come to me on, I'd be like, yo, you don't know what you're talking about.
Context.
Oh no, I'm seriously, I just put it out there like, yo, you know, what are you talking about? What does that got to do with anything? And then that has nothing to do with Christmas. But what I'd like to do, Nick, instead of you throwing it out to us, can you tell us what that really meant?
Because you know he knows, right? You know he knows.
I know, and I don't want him to ask me so that you know, I would have to retire.
Where's Marlena when I need her? Well, I mean, clearly it's about idolatry, but there is a principle here, and that is, if something is based in idolatry, and you adopt it into your culture, does it then become acceptable? Now, and be careful, because there's somebody waiting to talk to you about going to church on Sunday as soon as you answer this question.
That's right.
If
Yep.
something is based on idolatry and you adopt it into your culture, is it acceptable? Let me share with you another passage of scripture, 1 Corinthians chapter 10, where the Apostle Paul confronts the issue of idolatry as it is connected to the sacrificing of food to idols. This is what he says. He says, rather the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to demons and not to God. And I don't want you to have fellowship with demons. And so he makes a connection there. Many people say, if something is connected to idols and it is not connected to God, then it is demon worship. Santa Claus, you see. And that's where they come off with that. So,
You know, Nick, when I was 7 years old, we used to live Maple Street apartment building.
wow, 70
So,
years ago.
It's
Wow.
not, well, it's some time ago.
Yeah.
And I could remember, you know, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. We watch all these you know, I live in an apartment building. I didn't have a chimney. So it didn't make sense to me. I remember asking my parents, do they drop it off on the fire escape? On the fire escape. And because that's what we had. We had a fire escape, and you always thought that you'll see him, you know, riding and whatever. And I remember 7 years old when my mom sat us down and said, there's no such thing as Santa Claus. I don't think we were sad or anything of that nature, but what happened is that we stopped putting up the tree, period.
Wow.
We didn't put up the tree anymore. I don't think that happened until grandchildren came along, that they put it back up to start the lie to start it all over again. But I could remember my parents telling us that. I don't think we were sad about it. I just think it just didn't make sense where we were.
It was a relief, right?
I think it was because we had more questions on who's Santa than anything else.
I got to share this comment on YouTube from Charlotte, Washington. She says, my biggest problem with Santa was when I was just a kid. was that it did not have a chimney for him
Yeah.
to come down.
Mhm.
So I thought that was the reason I did.
Yeah, look at that. I didn't. Yeah, same here. What, he came down an incinerator?
That's right, Miguel. A Brooklyn Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, every parent knew that you would break out the demythologization of Santa Claus when you went broke. You tell a kid, look, I want to tell you something. There ain't no. My daddy used to have a poem, that ended. I kid you not. My daddy had a poem that ended like this. It was talking about Santa Claus and his reindeer and his elves had gone on strike and they had lost power in the North Pole, and that because the reindeer went on strike, he couldn't use the sleigh.
Wow.
And the poem ended like this. This is the honest truth. He would tell me this when he says, "So if you don't get presents this Christmas, there's something I want you to know, that all of the reindeer are out on strike and Santa's out on his donkey in the snow."
Yeah.
Because he would say because he didn't have the reindeer, he'd have to use a jackass, and it would be, Santa Claus reindeers are out on strike and he's out on his in the snow. My father was hilarious.
No, Nick, I was
you get it.
literally I was a bit
Yes.
afraid. I know that your check from the conference office is going to be a little bit skewed. So you could kind of say what you want to say now. That's why my heart was just jumping. But I have to say to you that I could see parents talking about Santa as the excuse of saying this is what we don't have.
Yeah, we don't have it.
Because going back to what Chuck said, it's the most wonderful time of the year that even if it's not about gifts, people's attitudes change.
Yep. People feel warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
They're
mean,
more generous and kind.
who wants to bring
Also,
that down?
on the flip side, you have folks who are stealing and
Right.
committing crimes.
Sure.
So
Sure.
People might feel warm and fuzzy at a brothel, but you can't say because they feel good about it, then it must be all right. I mean, the question becomes: is there a value to be had? And when you really, and someone in the chat mentioned the birth of Tammuz. Let's get to what really drives December the 25th.
Miguel. See what Miguel said? Santa's a low-key burglar.
money.
I mean, what really drives December the 25th is the astrological understanding of the importance of the sun.
Sure.
We get to the, in our day, when our power of incandescence allows us to drive away the darkness.
Hey, Nick.
We
Hey.
start
I heard you
the
talking
sun,
about
and
me.
Marlena comes right on.
Marlena,
Here
get
she
him,
is.
okay? He's set up for you. Don't worry.
I heard him talking about me.
Okay.
I had to, if I could appear like a genie, I would have been there fast.
She's a genie in the bottom. but in the days of antiquity, the sun was life. No sunlight, no plants, no crops, no life, And so at the end of the year, when the winter solstice would come and the days would suddenly begin to grow longer, that was considered to be the rebirth of the sun. And every culture had a festival that celebrated that rebirth of the sun. Christianity simply adopted it and said, you know what? We have the birth of the sun, S-O-N. And so it is the use of myth based on other legend that's not true to celebrate something that is true. Is that legitimate?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think we ought to celebrate the rebirth of the sun, but the fact that it hinges off of pagan origins, that's questionable. But I think that Jesus Christ ought to be celebrated and proclaimed all throughout, regardless of the faults that the roots of that tradition have come from.
Is it acceptable to use myth and legend to teach and embrace truth?
I think God's glory can still be revealed even in the midst of mess.
Okay, all right. So
No,
if
absolutely.
something has an untrue or a pagan origin, is it acceptable to use it for holy purposes?
So let's go back to that origin though, because
Good question.
I mean, when I hear Christmas, even though when I hear Christmas, I think of the birth of Christ.
Okay.
So that's the origin for me. Now,
Mhm.
what it became after that, what it was turned into, and all, like I don't I don't engage that. When I say I celebrate Christmas, I'm saying I celebrate the birth of Christ. This is a time where, even though I do it all year long, like I said, this is an opportunity where now I can take it a step further and put it in circles that may not have been receptive to it at any other time of the year. So when I say celebrate Christmas, it doesn't mean that I'm embracing paganism. Like, I mean, I don't sit there and think about the adulterous things that could happen. It's the context. So that's why I say we use the word celebrate loosely, because what does it mean when we say we celebrate Christmas or we don't celebrate Christmas? Does it mean we don't give gifts? We don't do a tree? What when we say we don't celebrate it, what are we saying?
It means we pick and choose how hypocritical we want to be.
There you go.
Well, if I may,
Here she
if
comes.
I may speak, no, not like that, Pat, not like that.
I got you.
I
No,
can
come on, I'm with
say,
you.
I can say, this topic is. I mean, I've heard many sermons on it, right? Not to celebrate Christmas. People who do it, they don't do gifts, they don't do trees. They might have a dinner, but that's it. They don't do anything else. And I heard a sermon one year, and it seemed to convict me. So that year, I didn't do a tree. I think we gave gifts. And my family was so mad at me. They said, this is the worst Christmas ever. They were downright mad at me. And so, I mean, if I can be real, I mean, I struggle because I got something in my email like a couple of days ago. And of course, it was on Tammuz. He was before Tosh. They switched it to celebrating the birth of Christ. It was Tammuz, and he's the son of the sun god. And so when we worship him, we're worshiping paganism, and God has called us to come out of Babylon. I said, Jesus, am I going to be lost because of my Christmas tree? Help a sister out. And so
I'm
I
not going
think
to be lost for that.
I'm
There's other stuff
Won't
they
make you
got you
feel
on.
like
what my Nicholas with the Chrysler car. But what I want to say, Nick, is we need to help people out, because folk will send out things that make people think that they're going to be lost, because they're saying you've got to come out of Babylon, and when you celebrate these things, you are in Babylon. So people confuse me. Am I going to be lost? I want to be saved, so I don't want to do any of those things. And so I think that's a good question that you put out. Can you still be a Christian?
And use myth. Yeah.
Right, and celebrate some things, but they say we're mixing in with all of this idolatry because the tree is an idol, and we're mixing in with all this idolatry. And so now we're like the children of Israel when they were supposed to be the people of God and thinking they're people of God, yet and still they are mixed with the multitudes.
There's S. Bryant made a point in the chat that a couple of things I'll take on. Yeah. Says the Israelites thought they were doing a good thing with the golden calf. No, they did not. We can dismiss that one quickly. They didn't think they were doing a good thing.
Let me tell you, if I should do it all over again with my children.
Sorry, S. Bryant.
What I did was I explained it to them. And if I had to do it all over again, I would go all out. I took a lot of time to explain it to my 3 kids. This is what Christmas is supposed to be every day. We thank God for them. I think what has happened is that, number one, we want everyone to know how we celebrate or if we don't celebrate. And we have the tendency of putting down the person who does it differently than the way we do it. That's what I see in our church. That's what I see in the pews. So I'm just going to be straight out to let you know, if I have a problem with something, somebody mentioned it in the chat. I don't wear a wedding ring, right? But that's my conviction that I don't wear a wedding ring. But my wife wears her wedding ring. Right. So that's her conviction. This is my conviction that I don't wear one. My thing is that everything should be explained. when I was in church, Sharon SDA Church, on Easter and on Christmas, I preached about the pagan part of it and what God expects from us. But I still did Christmas with them, and I still did Christmas at home. Do you understand what I'm saying? I think the problem with it is that we want to put on others what our conviction may be. Let me get to something real quick. So, for example, when we wear our PhD robes, or when we wear our pastoral robes, that is not that is
that biblical?
That is pagan. That is no biblical. What that is pagan at its best.
Biblical.
Those come from ritual robes, and pagan robes, and we wear them in the church. The way we do communion is paganistic.
Uh-oh.
Oh, how is that so, Reverend Bishop Doctor?
Well, Nick, I'm glad you asked. We took the Last Supper. And we turn the Last Supper into something that we do on Sabbath at communion that does not reflect what happened at the Last Supper.
But you were saying that it was pagan. I want to know how it's pagan.
Oh. So, for example, no, I'll tell you what it is. We do the Come on, help me with the word.
Transubstantiation.
I know we hide it. Oh, yes, we do, Nick. We do. The bread comes out.
Yeah.
We wash our hands.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
we
break the body of Jesus Christ.
Yes.
All right. Before we give it out to the paupers in front of us, we hand it to the king's men and all the king's horses until it gets down to them. We pray over it first to turn the bread into a body, and then we turn the wine into a we all right, y'all keep laughing at me.
I'm not trying to figure out what communion you did.
No, but okay, hold on. The younger guys are now doing it the right way.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I would say the younger guy.
Well, let's not lose Christmas and communion.
No, but
here.
it's the same thing. We choose what we want to. We choose. No, Nick, hold on a second.
Okay.
We choose how we want to do it. Now,
I agree.
Listen. In Ephesus Church in Manhattan, they still bake the bread.
Yes.
Right? They still take the yeast. Don't put any yeast in. They still break the bread.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
When it's done, that's not paganistic. I'm just saying this is the way they do it. It's a ritual. It's tradition that they do. That even when you have leftover, they take it out to the backyard and bury it.
Yeah.
Or burn it, or some of they bury it. Right. Making it more like holier than thou. Now,
if you eat it, you'll die.
Now we have little cups now that has the wafer on the top.
Yeah, the little styrofoam poker chip. Yeah.
Yes.
Those things are horrible.
Wow, that's exactly what it looks like.
But here's the thing: there are people who won't do it because it's not the way that they have.
But that doesn't make it pagan. That is simply a matter of what you find to be acceptable ritual. But the question
you asked the question before. The question I asked was, what's the extent of paganism?
What I asked was, is it acceptable to take something that is myth or legend that's rooted in paganism and use it for another purpose? Is that acceptable to use something that has absolutely no basis in truth,
communion,
to teach something that is true?
Yes, communion. But go ahead. We'll go ahead.
So
the next one.
I don't want it to bring in Carrie's comment here because I think that this kind of belongs right here where we're talking about. One, the enemy has conscripted and paralleled everything God did. And every celebration does not need a religious validation to exist.
Right.
So do we agree with that? I mean, I know a lot of the questions in the chat are, is it biblical?
Yeah.
Is that to say that everything that we celebrate has to be in the Bible? I know someone even asked, did God even ask us to celebrate his birthday?
Birthdays?
Our birthdays aren't in the Bible.
We still say Monday, we say Tuesday, we say Wednesday, we call them out by those names. Those are not
all pagan.
Those are all pagan. I mean, right? Yep. June, July, August, they're all pagan. We still call them out. And this is what I bought for my church. We have money. Everything written. You got you got the seen eye. You have all of this on money. You still use it. It's still in your wallet. You understand what I'm saying?
I feel like everything is pagan until we get to heaven. I mean, I just feel like, you know what I mean? Like, we're in a sinful world full of
Everything's
sinful things.
And I believe that not everything is in the Bible. And that's what that we have people who look for everything to come out of the Bible. Everything is not in the Bible. And go ahead, Nick.
But how about if something, it's not, and that's one question. It's a valid one, and Carrie raised it, and that is, if it's not in the Bible, is it acceptable to use it for good? I think we would all agree, yes. The other question that we really haven't wrestled with yet is if it comes from something that is opposed to Bible, that is pagan. For example, the use of Easter eggs is pagan. It's fertility rite. A rabbit and an egg, they both represent fertility. And we bring that into our Easter celebration. Well, we may not bring it in.
Yeah.
Do that.
I think we do pretty good with Easter.
Yeah, we separate, except for those churches where they change the bread and the wine into the actual body and the blood of Christ that Pat actually passed.
That's your church at West Philly.
Ichabod. But not, let me just, there are two things. One, remember when Jesus was confronted by someone and he told a story about a rich man who died and went to the bosom of Abraham.
Yep.
And that, he looked across a great chasm where Lazarus was rather in the bosom of Abraham. The rich man went to hell and he was being tormented in the flames. Is that true?
No, it's not true.
It's not a true story.
You mean to tell me
Nick,
the Lord of glory?
Nick, I got another one for you, Nick.
Use the myth.
What about the angel that touched the water at Gate Beautiful?
And that's a part of the Bible now. At the pool of Bethesda.
At Bethesda, the pool of Bethesda, Gate Beautiful.
It's right there in the Bible. Now we recognize from higher criticism that text was added as a gloss, but that's a whole nother UpSet segment. But but it is in the Bible, and it is strict myth. It is strict myth.
Yes, Nick,
you know what?
You know what? My goal as a gospel heralder is to take at any means necessary. I'm going to use everything that I can to save a soul. And Christmas,
like Paul says, by any means.
Hey, listen.
Yep.
Turn
Christmas,
that thing around.
I even have a problem, and I'll say it out loud. I have a problem with Alumni Weekend being on Easter. Right? No. When I say I'm talking about Oakwood Alumni Weekend, because that's the time when your church is filled. Use the opportunity. Christmas time is when your church is filled. Use the opportunity. So I know that what people are chatting about, and I hear you. I have relatives that would never do anything close to Christmas, but I use this opportunity to tell people about salvation. This is the opportunity to tell people about the birth of Christ, and this is it. If there's no other time that's great enough than this time, that's how I look at it.
So when people say the reason I go to church on Sunday is because Jesus was resurrected on the first day of the week and the rising of the sun, when I fall on my knees with face to the rising sun, and we shouldn't. And somebody asked recently, so should we worship on the first day? And the answer is yes. And the second day, and the third day, and the fourth day, and the fifth, all week long.
And I like that song you just
like a Holy Ghost party, because the Holy Ghost party don't.
Hold on, I'm about to start that. I'm about to start it up. Nick, I'm with you at this because there's a lot of stuff that we borrowed. All right, and I'm using those words. There's a lot of things that we borrowed that came out
stole.
I want to call it borrowed. The reason why I'd rather call it borrowed
is give it back.
because that's when we choose how we want to give it back, right? How we want to listen. How did we learn how to keep the Sabbath? We learned how to keep the Sabbath for people because of people who were keeping Sunday the way Sabbath is supposed to be kept.
Unfortunately, yes, that's true.
And that's how we changed over. All they did was change the day, and just did it on Saturday instead of doing it on Sunday. We borrowed these things.
We weren't keeping it in Africa though.
Yeah. But you see, not institutionalized. You understand what I get it. In Africa was more of a culture, the way we kept Sabbath. But when Catholicism took this thing by storm, this is when everything became traditional and ritualistic. and we still do it. We no matter what. Listen, the organ. Come on, Kerry. I need you here. Where's Kerry? The organ in the sanctuary was considered more holier than any other instrument. And we're not talking about 100 years ago. We're talking about 50 years ago. You couldn't have guitars, drums, and all that. Where did the organ come from? Nick, you want to answer that question? No, not the Hammond.
Pipe organ.
They were in the clubs.
Where did the pipe organ come from, Nick? You know the answer.
Yeah. That Marlena said it.
Well, let me take you back. Let me just take you back a little bit. Let's get to the 1300s to 1400s. Did Kerry answer that question yet? Though that organ came from paganistic rituals that they had, and that organ moved over to the church. It didn't start in the church. I'm waiting on Kerry.
I don't know if the organ came from paganistic rituals, but
not Hammond organs. Don't think Hammond.
No, the pipe organ. I mean, the organ. It was just an instrument.
No.
It was just an instrument. But I want to correct something that Charlotte Washington. She asked a question. She said, "I never knew that the story of the pool of Bethesda was a myth." And so, are you saying that the entire story about the lame man at the pool of Bethesda was untrue? No. What we're talking about is that the Bible incorporates a myth in telling the story, and the myth is that it was believed that an angel disturbed the pool, and that the person who jumped in first would be cured later on. I mean, the pool of Bethesda has been discovered in Jerusalem. You can actually see it now, and it was fed by underground springs, and when it would bubble, people, because of their superstition, would say, "Must be an angel in the water," and the superstition grew from that. And that was the myth. The healing of the man was not a myth. That was true.
Hey, Nick, to go with Charlotte on this and Christmas, right? Jesus sees the opportunity of the myth to be able to heal that person. In other words,
absolutely.
I mean, he sees that opportunity.
Right.
All I'm saying is that Christmas is the same thing. No, I don't believe that Jesus was born on 25th. We understand all of that. If we want to follow Jesus' example, seize the opportunity that we have. Because, I don't believe an angel jumped out of the sky and touched the water. Okay, red light, green light, 1, 2, 3. Matter of fact, I preached a sermon on that, and I called it red light, green light, 1, 2, 3. You know, street games only for Philly people. They don't have that in where Marlena and them come from. But, and to see I think that's a terrible God for you to touch the water and to see who could get to the water first. Come on. But again, Jesus still stepped in, used their superstition, and still said, I'm the head over that. And that's where I believe we ought to do in this case.
Can I get that? Tosh, can you post Yanny Simone's response? Because I think this is very important for young people, young adults. I think this is one reason too why a lot of our people leave the church. Some people make being a Christian very stressful. When they, everything is paganistic, so we don't do anything. We just kind of exist in the world and we do nothing. And it really makes people feel ostracized, like they don't want to be a part of the church because you can't do anything. And I just wanted to bring that out when it comes to, the holidays. And one thing we were talking about, paganistic, you're celebrating your birthday is not in the Bible, but we do it.
Some people don't.
Well, some faiths, but I mean, I'm going to celebrate the day I was born. No sin in that.
And it's true. I remember growing up and feeling like anytime we as children exhibited any type of joy about something, there was always someone coming with, no, you're not supposed to do that. That's wrong. And it's like, and it seems so innocent. And, for something like Christmas where people are happy and then you're telling people, no, you don't celebrate that. And you're like, but it's the birth of Christ. No, it's pagan. It's like we get so bent out on beating down things instead of embracing, as has already been said, an opportunity to, that may be its intent, but what can I do to make it turn into something positive, to turn it into something that can bless someone? I mean, we all know. We say it's the holiday season, and because people generally are more given during this time of the year, people are generally more receptive to you during this time of the year. And we go around, I don't celebrate. We close so many doors sometimes in our approach and sharing that we don't celebrate. And my thing is, hey, you don't have to celebrate anything. And you know, I don't.
You got to be. You have to be a retired Seventh-day Adventist minister to say what I'm about to say now.
Hold on, wait a minute, hold on a second, hold on. Go ahead.
It hasn't even been
Wanna hear
24, or
this?
has it been 24 hours? I don't know.
Let him go.
There is no. I mean, the fact of the matter is that when you are a part of a church that is perfectionistic.
Oh my goodness.
In other words, if you don't get it completely right, then God will hold you completely guilty. When you celebrate a church that says that at the very end, if you don't confess everything you ever did wrong, if you are found in any error whatsoever, you will be shaken out.
That's right.
You breed a group of people who start going into the weeds looking for every little thing to see, well, you might be that's broccoli you're eating, but was it cooked in the same zip code next to a piece of pork? I mean, you get those kind of people, and they start becoming extremely censorious on their lives and your life as well.
Nick, answer. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just want Nick to help me with that word. Sin what?
Censor.
Oh,
they censor you.
censor.
You know,
Okay. I didn't. And listen, I immediately when you said the word, my mind started going with sin, sincere. So I got to go back when I'm around you. I got to go back to the root word and then start
just
working.
pull out your dictionary.
Yeah.
Half of these words, half of them I make up and hope that you don't call me. But
you can get away with that. Absolutely.
No. Here's the thing. We live in a world. Everything is jacked up. I don't care how you look at it. I mean, if you want to look at it from a spiritual standpoint, we could pull everything and say, man, the internet is of the devil. This water came from over here. This is of the devil. Our phones are of the devil. The vaccines are of the devil. No, I'm serious. I mean,
TV is the one-eyed devil.
Yeah, TV. Yep. Don't keep it on because the devil speaks through it and this, that, and the other. And I think what we do, we minor in the majors and majors in the minor, and we major in the minors. I don't want to take anybody's who's been convicted. If you've been convicted, you need to stick to what you're convicted about. And there are some things that I'm convicted about as far as Christmas is concerned, but it's definitely not to have a celebration concerning it. It's the best time for family to come together again. Is the best time for people. Let me tell you something. January is the worst because of the letdown after Christmas. Can you imagine if every day was like that? Then there would not be a letdown. There's like suicide rates, all of that happened during.
And that's where we can show how to celebrate it properly. And those are the types of things that, to me, deserve correction. When you do get up into the, going in debt to buy gifts and getting caught up in those types of things, then yes, you're heading in the wrong direction. That's not the type of celebration that
sure. Can I get with Donovan real quick?
I love that.
I like that. I like what he said, because the truth is that I feel the same way about certain things.
Me too.
I know y'all gonna flip when I tell you this. If there were no drums in the church, I'm fine. Means absolutely nothing to me. When I went to DuPont Park, there were no drums. When I went to Alexandria, there were no drums. Right. And don't get me wrong, it's because of the way I grew up. It had nothing to do with what was right, what had a salvation issue to it or not. It's just the way that I grew up. Right. I know y'all gonna bother me about shoes, and you're gonna bother me. I just feel it coming. But look at praise and listen, they have reggae gospel. I can't listen to reggae gospel because to me,
why? Yeah.
Because I have some uncles, right?
He got some real reggae in his blood,
right?
And doing it to the bone, boogie on reggae woman.
But this is for Pat Graham though. When reggae is played, because of how I grew up, there's only one thing I'm thinking about when it comes to reggae. That's it, right? I mean, partying. It's not even sex, money, grinding, and all that. That's what I see because we grew up. I can't picture taking words of God and putting it to it, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. that doesn't mean that it's not something that someone could get closer to their relationship with Jesus. I just can't do it. So I don't want to tell anybody that this is wrong. What I want to say is that you can't throw out the baby in the bathwater. Is that how you say it, or the baby or the bathwater or whatever? Yeah, you can't do that. Nick, take a bath.
But I just, but
It's okay.
can I?
It's okay to have preferences, but you don't have to be a Grinch about it.
True that.
I like that.
He invoked the Grinch. Go ahead.
Can y'all hear me?
We hear you. They're just
Go ahead,
talking.
Marlena.
They won't acknowledge me on this day.
Go ahead.
Anyway,
Because you wasn't in the green room with us. That's why.
I was
Well,
doing the
she had
Lord's
good-
business.
Go ahead,
She
you're right.
sure was.
You're right.
Right.
Exactly.
You're right.
I can always look for my Charles to help me out.
Absolutely.
So it came up in the conversation here. Can this be considered creeping compromise? Now, Pastor Nick, can you address that? Because I know that we're going to get backlash here. Pastors on the phone, we're just paganistic. And, we're leading the people astray, telling them, they can do whatever. What about this creeping compromise?
Can you just give that to GP? You're really not giving that to Nick, are you?
He's like,
Yeah, I wanted Mr. Historian to share
Okay,
that.
I mean, that comes from a book that was actually written, I believe it was by Joe Cruz.
Yep.
Yes, it was Joe Cruz.
Yep.
Compromise.
Yep.
Where basically it talks about syncretism with the world, and that the church is starting to find itself creeping towards the compromises offered by worldly traditions and customs, comparing it to what Israel did when they went into Canaan, and how they slowly found their way away from God by doing the things that the heathens did. And I imagine if you are doing things that the heathens did, and accepting the values, the priorities, and the principles that come with the practice, that you will find yourself compromising. But I don't.
Well, I think it happens all the time. I think it happens all the time. I mean, in our church, with Christmas, we're challenged with what the church accepts and validates institutionally versus what we as individual Christians do.
Very good point.
You've got some people that say, "Oh no, you shouldn't be dancing in church. We shouldn't be dancing at all." I know a pastor who spoke vehemently against dancing. And I went to a personal family event, which I was invited to, and who was on the dance floor.
Did they do the electric slide? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
oh, that one's okay. You didn't know that?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
That one's in Sister White's writings. You allowed to do that one.
but really and truly, I need to get some of my indigenous folk in here. My indigenous brothers and sisters would simply say, you speak with forked tongue, which means you say one thing
That's
and you
right.
do something else.
Chuck didn't curse just now.
No, I didn't.
Oh.
We
It
rolled
was
the
a
tape out.
4-letter word, but it was
Right.
I was trying to hear.
Fork.
Well,
tongue.
Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1 and then verse 4. For everything there's a season, a time for every matter under heaven. Verse 4, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance.
That was a hit record too one time.
That's true. I remember singing,
A time to laugh, a time to
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Beatles.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I recommend to our people. I mean, we've already concluded that even Jesus used myth to teach truth in the story of Lazarus and the rich man, because he knew that, first of all, he knew that Lazarus wasn't anywhere in Abraham's bosom, and secondly, he knew that nobody was burning in hell at the time.
That's right.
But there's a book that was written in the mid-1970s by a gentleman named Bruno Bettelheim. It's called The Reasons for Enchantments, where he talks about how myth and fairy tales are used to convey lessons and values. When you think about, and for those of you who say, you can't bring legend and myth in the church, we do it every Sabbath. Well, we used to. It was called Children's Story Hour.
That's right.
You bring the children up, and you would come up with a story, a legend, a myth.
Right.
And
That's
little Bobo went down and caught the fish with his bare teeth.
Mhm.
And it wasn't true.
But
We
Nick,
all knew it wasn't true.
Nick, let me hit you with another one. The parables aren't true.
Yep.
The parables are not true.
All right,
Jesus
the
used
parables.
Some
They
of
were
them
just
were.
examples.
Yeah,
Well, I'm saying it might have
but,
happened.
yeah, but a lot of them
right?
were not true.
But
Yeah.
when you get to Luke 15, where the father, puts a ring on the son's finger, you okay? We back to paganism again.
Right.
All right.
Well,
I'm just
You
saying
back
that
to
there's
culture. Yeah.
no. I know. I understand
Yeah.
culture. I understand culture, and the thing is, I don't. Now I'm gonna go back to what Marlena bought from Yanny. We make the gospel unattractive.
Mhm.
Right? And it's only through the pandemic, and I'm 51 years old. It's only through the pandemic that I just started to enjoy the Sabbath.
Well,
Mhm.
Right? Because
Mm.
that's
Sabbath
interesting.
it was known to me
It was work.
before you get to work. It was things you could not do while you were growing up. It's things
Right.
stuff you can't do, right?
Yep.
And so
Right.
so now that I think that there's an influx of of the Holy Spirit on you during the Sabbath, because now you see it in a different way. I'm just asking those who have made up their mind that Christmas, Easter, Halloween. Hold on. We have now in the Adventist church, we don't do Halloween, but we do fall festival.
hallelujah
Yeah.
nights.
Yeah.
Harvest parties.
Yeah.
Right. Harvest parties, whatever the
Got to
case may
give the
be.
children an alternative. You can't take away everything from them.
Right.
Hey, listen, proms, all of those type of things. I'm expecting us to give the object lesson as we go along, and that's the one thing that I've learned about and matter of fact, that's why it's written. Object lessons are written that way so that we have an understanding of just a little bit of what's happening. God is not black or white. I'm not talking about color.
Mhm.
And I think we make him that way. If you don't
Yes, for
do
that.
this,
Mhm.
then you're going straight to hell. If you
Mm.
do this, you got stairways to the kingdom. Well, it's just not like that. And I think that at Christmas time, Easter time, and you can go all the way down the line, because everyone, remember now, Christmas is considered Yule, or Yule.
Mhm.
It's considered Yule. That's where it comes from, right? So SOLIST.
Well, yeah, Yule is more of a word for like joy, like the Yule log, joy, celebration.
Mhm.
Soul would be the
Yuletide.
sun, Yeah.
Right.
Somebody said, "How about observing Reformation Day on 10/31? Do what you want."
Do what you want.
Monte Cristo
You know-
Duke asked, where do I get all of this? I'm not sure what this is that I got.
It's talking about your
All of your
history
insight.
of
Pat and
He's a
GP.
scholar. He's a scholar.
Teach all week long.
I think though, we can argue
In heaven
what's
there will be no
paganism.
alternatives. Wow.
We can argue,
Ooh, I think he
the
is
letter
black
of
and
the.
white.
Well,
Mm-mm.
Sorry, I'm putting
So-
these
so
No,
sorry
things
about
together.
that.
I was just going to say that we can
Yeah.
argue on this, for many, many, many hours. I think what we should do, I think good, solid Christian homes and people should concentrate on the opportunity to not only share the goodness of Christ and the birth of Christ and what he means by reaching out to others who don't have what you have.
Mhm.
We can use this time, even with our children, if we talk about, getting them gifts, for Christmas. I've heard of some households that said that they do not get their children gifts for Christmas unless they can make a gift for a stranger.
It's good too.
So you have opportunities
Mhm.
to use the Christmas holiday for Christ-centered activities.
Yeah.
We can beat ourselves up about whether we should have Christmas trees and all of that, but
Mhm.
I just think it's an opportunity, just like Thanksgiving. That's an opportunity. I mean, you're going to sit down with your family and enjoy a meal, but it's also an opportunity to reach out to those families who don't have that ability. So I just think that at the end of the day, let's use the Christmas season for an opportunity to witness and to do for others that, when they can't do for themselves.
But let me say,
We've been so programmed, through, I read a book years ago. I don't remember the author's name. It's called A Sponsored Life. And she talks about how our lives are so sponsored by marketing. We don't even realize it. The clothes we wear, the cars we drive, our haircut. I mean, we're driven by market forces that clouds our thinking and our priorities. So I think we need to give some thought to that. Let's take this opportunity to share some love to not just your
Amen.
own family,
Amen.
but your neighbors and the folk downstairs. I mean, it's an opportunity. I know that there are some groups that actually go to homeless shelters on
Yes.
Christmas Day.
That's
Bring with them the
celebrating.
story of Christ and leave some gifts, leave money,
Mhm.
leave donations, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Well, before we go, I mean, I think we've covered it pretty well, but just for the fun of it, I'd like to ask all of you, what myth would you like to explode about the Christmas holiday? Because there's a lot that we do and we practice that, I mean, give me a myth that you'd
Yeah.
like to
I want to
explode.
know where they came up with the drummer boy.
Oh, the drummer boy.
Because I looked in the Bible, I didn't
Yeah.
find the drummer boy.
You didn't see the Pathfinders marching around the
No, I was trying to find the sashes
In
and the
Bethlehem.
uniforms. I did not find the drum corps, Pat.
They were
What
standing
happened?
outside the stable.
That's a good one. The drummer boy. That's good.
Okay, that's
But he
a
brought
good
his
one.
gift.
That's
And
good.
anybody
He
have
did what he
another
could
one?
do.
Is there another one that someone might have?
A myth?
Yeah, a myth that comes with the celebration of Christmas, where we know.
Oh,
Okay,
the Saint Nick. The man go. Even though I
well,
do
wait a
believe
minute.
there was
I
a
want you to be
Saint Nick that
careful. I want you,
existed.
be careful with this one.
Yeah, 'cause
So
Saint
there was a Saint Nick that existed. He wasn't black living in Philadelphia. It was another one.
yeah, but and satanic Nick.
Nick, Tally. Somebody had a comment for you. Is this one of your members?
Let's see. Which one? It says the myth about the European Madonna and baby.
No.
No,
No.
I'm surprised that no one complained that it was wrong for all that gift giving they did for you on Sabbath your last.
Oh no,
Ooh.
that I don't think that's one of my members. And
take it.
Man,
That
thank
was
you.
Sir Duke.
That was well.
Oh,
Monte
12
Cristo
days of
Duke.
Christmas.
No,
I don't know.
you know,
Here's one of my favorite ones. Where and this is going to bother a lot of people because this one still hasn't been exploded well. Where was Jesus born? Anybody have that answer?
Bethlehem.
Tasha is so suspicious of me these days.
Bethlehem.
No, I was just singing the song, but I forgot it.
Well, it wasn't Camden.
Particularly, where was he born? Everybody knows that he was born in a
manger.
born in a manger.
Yeah.
And they're discovering that is myth. That Jesus, the expression used for Jesus, where it says he was born in a manger, they say that he went to Bethlehem and there was no room in the
inn.
It was in the stables.
Bethlehem was so small at that time there were no hotels. The fact of the matter is the word that
Not
is
even
used
a
for
Red Roof
inn.
Inn.
If you want to compare it, you can take a look at it. The word inn that is used when Jesus talks about the man who was beaten up and left on the road for dead and the Good Samaritan, it says the man took him to an inn.
Mm-hmm.
The word used there is not the word used when it says Jesus was born. Jesus, remember, Joseph was going back to his family's home. Why would he go back and have to stay in the Holiday Inn if he was going to his family's home? The word used is the word kataluma, which means upper room or separate room. And the thinking is that when he got there, they were traveling, they were a little bit late, there were other family members, and that because she was in a delicate way, they put her somewhere separately so that she could have the baby. Now we got cows and goats and everybody else up in there.
You're making people rewrite their Christmas plays now.
And none of that stuff is there. None of that stuff is there. They were in a separate room in a house, and You know, the guy was not busy saying to the bellboys and the bellhops, "Listen, we got no time for this pregnant woman to get out of here." But that's the story we tell.
Nick, there are churches in Allegheny East Conference who are trying to do a live nativity, and you're ruining it for all of us. Ruining it.
I know
I'm
everyone
talking.
says we don't trust that dude. Let's research it for ourselves.
Hey, I just
Well, you
was,
know what?
I was looking
It's-
up one
you know-
as we were talking that Jingle Bells is not a Christmas song. They said
Isn't
it
that
was
song
made
about
No,
for,
it's
it
just
was made
else?
for Thanksgiving, and then
Oh.
they changed it
Oh,
to end it with a one-horse open sleigh, so that it could you could sing it for Christmas also.
now there's my member, Mitzi Mundell. Let me make sure that is that my member. It might not
Ugly
be,
sweater and
but ugly sweaters and cookies. No, cookies is gospel.
Yeah.
Oh, the ugly sweater.
Cookies and milk.
I was like,
Yeah. Cookies and
Oh,
soy
What can we
milk.
say?
Sally,
What
somebody
we-
want me to give a reference on that since you enlightened us all.
Oh,
About the end.
go to use one of the online Bibles. Look up the word. Look up the Luke chapter 2 and verse 7, and you'll see the story. And check out the word. It's actually katalamati,
I see
but
it.
it's kataluma.
I see
And
it.
then go to the story of the Good Samaritan, and I think it's pandikina, I believe it is. They're two separate words meaning two separate things. But better than that is just Google,
I see
was
it.
Jesus born in a stable? And you'll find that they'll tell you the story that they're discovering. Bethlehem
I was
was
actually looking it up. It says for that Jesus was not, that's a myth, that Jesus was not born in a stable or a manger or whichever. And I looked up the two words. Wow, it's crazy. It's a house. And,
it was in a house, and
yeah, I see it.
He was,
in the
it
guest
was
room.
in, and Joseph had family there. They were in the house. They gave them space because she was pregnant. But we like that story. We like that cow looking on saying,
Here's
that afterbirth is not.
Well, Dr. Nick. We talking about myths and all. I want to know about the three kings. Were those dudes really rich, and where'd they come from? Why'd they come in the first place?
They were rich. These were Persians. The three, they were not kings. They were astrologers. Now we're going to really get into it.
Oh, see,
They were astrologers.
That's why I brought it up.
Paganism.
We don't have
Wait,
that
let's
kind
see
of
if we can change
time.
the we three astrologers.
The reason we come up with three kings is because the Bible lists three gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
Mhm.
But trust me, these three fellas carrying that kind of wealth would not have come the distance that they came. Persia, we're talking about 900 miles.
Yeah.
They would not have traveled through the dangers of that type of journey with just the three of them with some camels, because they would have got shook and their money took.
Right.
And so they had enough money to go on an actual pilgrimage. They were there in large enough numbers so that when they hit Jerusalem, the word got to Herod, and they were treated as esteemed guests from an esteemed empire. And when you start looking at the Persian influence on Jewish behavior in those days, you'd understand it. They weren't kings. They were magi or
Hold on.
magi.
Nick, help me with this, and you guys help me with this. I also understand that when they
That's right,
came,
Mitzi.
he would have been at least 2 years old.
By the time they got
That's
there,
right.
which is why Herod said,
That is true.
kill all the children 2
From
years or
2
under.
years old and below, right?
That
So
is
it's not like they showed up and gave a gift. They knew who they were going to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
By the time they got there, Jesus was dapping them high five.
Yeah.
He wasn't in the manger looking all
Thank you.
chubby.
And they
Jesus was
said
potty trained.
if there were
Potty trained.
going to
Yes.
be, there will be more than 3
Yeah.
that would have been there.
See, this is an opportunity this time of year
Yeah.
to educate people on the things
Yes,
that
get the truth.
Yeah, and it's okay.
I
Like
didn't see Charlotte. Charlotte said 3 astrologers. Where did 3 come from?
Yeah, we need to do Christmas songs ASAP. Get
I
to right.
know, right?
Get to
We
right.
just singing all kinds of stuff, right?
Now another real study is, and because now they have computers that can actually backtrack the appearance of supernovae and
Right.
comets
Right.
as to what that star actually was, because the word planet comes from the Latin word meaning to wander. Stars don't wander; they're fixed. And so whatever this was moving and allowed these people to follow it, and then it kind of stood still. So
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and somebody asked to explain Luke chapter 2 and verse 7. That's next week's lesson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Part 2.
His baby lying in a manger.
Yeah, baby lying in a manger, and a lot of it comes about because of our interpretation of words that fit what we are, what it is that we are trying to say, and sometimes the translations just don't come across well. Let me take a look at that, but somebody else close out, and I'll find this manger for us.
Well, Nick, after you find the manger, and Chuck, I think you would be good at this too. What exactly does our church stand for when it comes to the Christmas holiday? Because you have people who celebrate and people who do not. What does the institution, can you share that, stand for?
Nothing.
Are they
It's
silent
very
on this matter?
Listen,
It's very
we are
it's
so much.
very
Go ahead, Chuck. Go ahead.
it's very convoluted. It's convoluted. It depends on, it's regional, it's geographical. You can go to different countries, they handle it differently. You can go to different parts of our conference,
That's
and
right.
it's handled different.
That's
It's left up to a lot of interpretation. Now, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm probably wrong, but I think institutionally, the Seventh-day Adventist Church recognizes Christmas, with the caveat, or with the added information that we all know that Jesus wasn't born on December the 25th, but as an institution, we can celebrate the birth of Christ, our Savior. So, institutionally, that's where we stand. Now, Christmas trees, gift buying, all of that, I think that's pretty much left up to the individual. But I don't speak for the church. We have to see what Ted would say about that.
What about,
call Uncle
Sister
Ted.
White? No, I'm just kidding. The way I was able to subdue the mob at my church was through Sister White. And the reason why I say that is because we have a tendency in our church that when we have an extreme position on something, we don't go to the Bible, because the Bible does not give
Right.
It's not specific.
no, and in a lot of things it's not. So we deal with what old preachers have told us, tradition of what they've said or how they have lived. And Sister White, and I'm talking about her not as a prophetess, but as a person that makes sense. I need to say that. I need to say that because, with Sister White, I know I'm gonna get crushed for this, but there's something Sister White, there's something Sister White says that is cultural based or time constraint is on
So
it.
does the Bible as well.
Definitely. And then there's another part of it where thus said the Lord, or I was shown that, etc., etc. So the reason why I look at it is because if Sister White was here now, these are some of the same people, I'm going to be clear on that, who would be like, whatever you say, Sister White, we're going to go ahead and do. Well, she says to put up a tree in your church, laden it with gifts for the poor, put money on it, hang money on it that will push the gospel, those type of things, and people, when I took it to the church, they could not believe it. They were like, is that really in Sister White's writings? Yeah. Now, I'm not saying you ought to go ahead and follow in that situation because she said this is what could be done. But still, let's be
But if you reference her, the spirit of prophecy, a lot of times people say that and they think that, well, what would Ellen White think? What would Jesus think? I mean, I did.
They're not on the same wavelength. So
we could go on and on and on. And I think, like I said, the bottom line, show love, give love, during this holiday season. I think, we can argue it, but I think the bottom line is to make Christ-centered decisions
I agree
And
with you, Chuck. And the very people to train are our children. Our children are used to
exactly.
getting. What am I getting? What am I getting? But teach them how to give.
Right.
When I was still practicing physical therapy full time, one of my patients had told me that he was going to be all alone on Christmas. So I
Mm.
took my boys and I had them buy him something with their money. They bought him
Excellent.
a pack of socks and some
Excellent.
T-shirts,
Excellent.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And we took it to him the day after Christmas to his home. He allowed us to come. The man cried like a little baby. He
Mhm.
was, his
After
wife had
Christmas?
passed the day after.
See, that didn't count.
The 26th, it was the day after.
That was
Because we
sweet.
were busy that day.
Right.
But
I'm
listen,
kidding,
Right.
Marlena.
my
I'm
boy, I know you are just pulling my Nick number 2.
kidding.
But
Yeah,
anyway,
right.
anyway, I had my boys presented to him. He was widowed and his daughter lived out of state. So he had no
Mm.
one to come
Mm.
by. And he wanted us to sit down and just spend time with him because he was so lonely. That changed that man's life. And it changed my boy's life.
Mhm.
Even
Right.
at our church this week, we're giving away fruit baskets in the community,
That's right.
right?
There we
I
go.
got children. I said, I want children. I want all of us. I said, you got a cane. Take that cane, limp across the street, and at least knock
Mhm.
on one door
Mhm.
and give them a
Right.
basket, because you want to teach people who Jesus, the act of giving versus
Right.
constantly trying to receive.
Yeah. And we also have to keep in mind, I mean, there was a lot of loss this year.
Yes.
A lot of families are going to be
True.
spending Christmas without
Oh,
some loved
yes.
one that they
Yes,
lost.
yes.
Yeah.
And that in itself is a ministry of the holidays. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, to embrace and be there for individuals who are suffering. I think that, you know, we base our beliefs or our do's and don'ts on what we know about the Bible, what we think we know about the Bible. But again, I say at the end of the day, it's really about people, loving people.
Yep.
Mhm.
And this is the time, because the world is celebrating, you know, Christmas in their own commercial way.
Yep.
But this is a chance. This is an opportunity. You know, I know of one gentleman who every Christmas he makes meals, like lunch meals, and on Christmas Day he goes down to the streets of the city and he not only just gives the meal, but gives them. It says the reason why he's doing that, and that it was to honor the birth of Christ and who Christ is. No, they may who knows? They may have been Muslims. You never know, but
Yeah.
that's an opportunity for us, you know, for us to do that. And I don't think we should take away from our churches that put up trees and that
Yeah.
celebrate Christmas in a Christ-centered manner. I don't think we ought to, you know, frown on that. I think we ought to encourage it, actually.
I agree.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are stretched over time just for the person who asked about. Tosh was singing Christmas carols
the
while we were going
joy.
through.
I love Christmas
The
carols.
joy of the
But
season.
for the person who asked about the manger, it was because there was no room in the upper room, the kataluma of the house. They put them in the lower room, which is where sometimes the animals would be kept in cold weather. And a manger is just like a little stall or a little place where you would put something, and they use that as a crib. And so that's where that came from.
Mhm.
Folks,
So
it's time for us to get ready
You
to
know,
go.
well, this person said, Donovan said, why is Chuck
Yeah, makes
why is
so
Chuck
much
Wait,
making so much
I was
sense?
gonna
Nice.
comment on that. You know, I learned in Groveland in grammar school that you could say a sentence 5 different ways.
Yeah.
So when I look at it, I
I
mean,
was
should I
wondering
say
what he meant by that.
should I say why
Yeah.
is Chuck making so much sense, or why is Chuck making so much sense tonight? And
You can go a whole way with it, or why is Chuck making, you know,
Don,
Hey.
I want you to know that Chuck makes sense every week. It's just Nick tries to steal the show.
yeah, that's right. Right.
Oh Lordy.
And listen, I love this comment here because this is what the UpSet podcast is about.
It is.
She doesn't agree with everything, but good discussion. And that's, you know, even
Well,
on this panel, we
Smile,
all
cash at me at
but it's okay. I think this is an example of how you can have a discussion about Christmas and it not be controversial or it not be combative, because a lot of
Yeah.
time we waste our time arguing with each other when we could be out serving people and taking advantage of this opportunity to minister to others during a time where, as Chuck brought out, people are hurting. There's joy for some, but some, this is the heaviest time of the year for them. Let's look for those opportunities. Let's put our energy in the places that it's needed most. And
and I think we need to make a concerted effort on Christmas Day, since that's where the focus has been on that day, to pray for those families who will not have that loved one with them.
Yes.
Because I've talked to a couple, and they, even when Thanksgiving came up, they said, "Oh man, this is the first Thanksgiving without," and you fill in the blank. That's that can be very hurtful. But I think that we can give the gift of love through prayer and support for folk that are struggling.
Indeed.
So could the UpSet podcast, put a virtual tree up where people could put money on the tree?
There's something in the Bible about greed, though. That is there.
Well, it's not about greed. What we want to do with this, Marlene, is give it to people that are poor and people.
Oh, that's what we're going to do.
We need the money and all of that. But let me give you the Cash App right now, everybody. It is Pat
Don't listen to him.
I think it's time to give that phone number where people can reach us and condemn those of us who are trying to shake down our listeners.
Oh yes, but yes, I love all the comments. If you couldn't already tell, I love Christmas, but I also understand those aspects of Christmas that we need to be careful of. That's very important because we can get caught up into how the world celebrates. But I encourage us to create our traditions, our own traditions that exemplify things that are more Christ-centered. I'm just as the suggestion that Charles just gave. It's never too late to reinvent Christmas for yourself and your family. And even now, I'm thinking about other ways that I can show my children how to be more giving during the holiday and highlight that side of things instead of so much getting. Great discussion. And thank you, Tally, for leading us out and giving us all that knowledge. I mean, people are going to be throwing out mangers and looking up ends and stuff like that.
Looking for new songs. Yep.
Are you sure it didn't say 3? I could have sworn.
Away in the small house.
Could you hurry up and give
I know, right?
email? No, the reason why is because people are texting me now with different songs that so just let them know where they can send
Tis the season. I'm sorry.
Oh gosh.
All right. And next week we'll be back. We're wrapping up the year. We can't believe we're already at the end of the year. And next week we'll be back to reflect. This is the first year of the podcast. We feel like we've been doing this forever, right? But this is our first year. We're going to go back to the very beginning and see what we've accomplished. I
want to go back to when we brought Marlena on. I just want
to,
we were all really
that's when we reached our peak right there.
Oh my goodness. You guys were funny show 1. I was like, this was funny. I missed it. Like Nick was pretty funny tonight with that Chrysler. I had to give him some thumbs up. That was funny.
And I took him serious also talking about, I remember the old Chrysler thing. Why am I even listening to him?
All right, guys, it's been fun yet again. And thank you all of our listeners and viewers. We really appreciate your comments. We don't get to say all of them, but we are reading them. And we
send your comments to our email.
Yeah, and if if something didn't if you wanted to share something or you think of something later, email us at upset@aecsda.
To figure out whether Chuck made sense tonight.
It's like, I don't know how to take that. It was in quotation, so I think it was a compliment. All right, guys. Until next week, have a great week, and we'll see you next Sunday at 6 p.m.
Bye, guys. Blessed
Bye-bye.
With us.
Take us out.